I agreed to be his fake girlfriend for 1 month, then I saw what was in his basement. Welcome to first kiss romance, where one kiss changes everything. The job posting was almost too good to be true. Seeking, professional actress or performer for short-term private engagement. Discretion required. Compensation, £50,000 for 4 weeks' work. No nudity. No illegal activity. Must be comfortable with public appearances and able to commit full-time. I stared at my laptop screen, my finger hovering over the mouse. £50,000. For 4 weeks. That was more than I'd made in the last year of waiting tables and going to auditions that led nowhere. You're not actually considering this. My flatmate Zara leaned over my shoulder, squinting at the screen. This screams you'll end up in pieces in a freezer. It literally says no illegal activity. Because serial killers are famous for honesty in job ads. She took a sip of her coffee. Besides, what kind of a private engagement pays that much? I didn't have an answer. But I also didn't have rent money for next month. I clicked the application link. 3 days later, I stood outside a townhouse in Belgravia that probably cost more than I'd earn in 10 lifetimes. The door opened before I could knock. Miss Chen. The woman who greeted me was in her 50s, dressed in an immaculate navy suit, silver hair pulled into a perfect chignon. I'm Mrs. Ashworth. Please, come in. The interior was exactly what I expected, marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and the kind of quiet that only serious money could buy. Mr. Hartley is waiting in the study, she said as she led me down a hallway lined with what looked like actual impressionist paintings. He values directness. Don't waste his time with pleasantries. Noted. She knocked once, then opened the door without waiting. The man behind the desk looked up. He was younger than I'd expected, mid-30s, dark hair, sharp jaw, eyes so blue they didn't look real. The kind of handsome that belonged on magazine covers, not in old-money townhouses. Miss Chen, he said, standing. His voice was calm, controlled. Thank you for coming. Please, sit. I took the leather chair across from his desk, aware of Mrs. Ashworth closing the door behind her. Why did you apply for the job? He asked. He was blunt. I decided to return the favor. Because I need the money. He nodded. What's your background? You've read my application, 3 years at RADA, 2 years failing politely in London, currently working at a restaurant in Shoreditch. Why haven't you made it? The bluntness again. Because I'm good, but not exceptional. And this industry doesn't reward good. I met his gaze. But I can convincingly pretend to be something I'm not. Which I assume is why I'm here. Perceptive. He opened a folder. I need someone to pose as my girlfriend for the next month. Public appearances, family events, 1 charity gala. You'll stay in the guest house, be available when required, and maintain the fiction that we're in a serious relationship. I blinked. Is that it? That's it. Why? That's not relevant to your employment. It's relevant to whether I take the job. I crossed my arms. £50,000 is a lot for a fake girlfriend. So, either you're desperate, or you're not telling me something. He was silent for a long moment. My father is dying, he said. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. He has perhaps 2 months. His final wish is to see me settled with someone respectable. I don't have time to cultivate a real relationship. This is efficient. It was plausible. Almost too plausible. And after the month? We part amicably. You're paid in full and receive a reference. My father has peace of mind. Everyone benefits. What about your actual partner? I don't have one. Why not? His expression closed. That's not relevant. Every instinct told me to walk away. Too much money. Too few answers. But £50,000. I'll need the contract reviewed by a lawyer, I said. Of course. You have 48 hours to decide. He stood and extended his hand. I shook it. One more thing, I said. If I'm playing your girlfriend, I should know your first name. Dominic, he said. But you'll call me Dom. All right, Dom. I paused at the door. What if your father doesn't believe we're real? Then you'll need to be better than you think you are. I took the job. The contract was airtight. No illegal activity. No sexual requirements. Full payment at the end of 4 weeks. My lawyer found nothing unusual. Zara thought I was insane. You're moving into a stranger's guest house to play pretend girlfriend, she said as I packed. This is how thrillers start. It's £50,000. That's why it's suspicious. She wasn't wrong. But the first payment, £10,000 up front, had already landed in my account. I moved in on a grey Tuesday morning. The guest house was better than anywhere I'd ever lived. 2 bedrooms. French doors opening onto a private garden. Dom showed me around the main house, polite and distant. Dinner at 7, he said. My father wants to meet you. Wear something elegant but understated. And Lily? Yes. Don't mention the arrangement. To anyone. Ever. The NDA isn't symbolic. I understand. He left. Later, while the house was quiet, I wandered down a side corridor. That's when I saw the basement door. Locked, unsurprising. But beside it was a keypad with a fingerprint scanner. The kind you didn't install for wine storage. I was staring at it when Mrs. Ashworth's voice came from behind me. Miss Chen. Can I help you? I turned, smiling. Just getting my bearings. The basement is Mr. Hartley's private workspace. Off limits to everyone, including staff. Her tone was pleasant. Her eyes were not. I'm sure you understand. Of course. I returned to the guest house with my heart pounding. Whatever Dominic Hartley was hiding in his basement, it had already changed the rules. The dress Dominic had sent over was waiting on my bed when I got back to the guest house. Midnight blue silk, designer label, probably cost more than my last 3 months of rent combined. A note was pinned to it in sharp, masculine handwriting, this should work. D. I held it up to the light. It was beautiful. Understated but clearly expensive. Exactly the kind of thing a billionaire's girlfriend would wear. Except I wasn't his girlfriend. I was an actress he'd hired to play one. At 6:55, I walked up to the main house in the blue dress and heels that pinched my toes. My hands were shaking slightly, so I clasped them together. Dominic was waiting in the foyer, and when he saw me, something flickered across his face. You look perfect, he said. That's the idea, isn't it? His mouth quirked. My father's in the drawing room. A few things before we go in. I'm listening. We met 3 months ago at a charity gala. You're an actress, but you're taking a break from auditions to focus on us. You are kind, intelligent, and you make me laugh. He'll ask about your family, keep it vague but warm. And Lily? Yes. He's dying. Not long left. So, whatever you think of me, whatever you think of this arrangement, be kind to him. The rawness in his voice caught me off guard. I will, I said quietly. He nodded, then offered his arm. Ready? As I'll ever be. Richard Hartley was smaller than I'd expected. He sat in a leather wingback chair by the fireplace, a blanket over his lap despite the warmth of the room. His face was gaunt, his skin papery, but his eyes, the same dark eyes as his son, were sharp and assessing. So this is her, he said, his voice surprisingly strong. The girl who's finally tamed my son. Dominic's hand found the small of my back, warm and steadying. Dad, this is Lily Chen. Lily, my father, Richard. I crossed the room and extended my hand. It's wonderful to meet you, Mr. Hartley. Richard, please. His grip was weak but firm. Sit, sit. I want to hear everything. Dominic's been maddeningly secretive about you. I settled onto the sofa, and Dominic sat beside me, close enough that our thighs touched. His hand rested on my knee, casual and possessive. It felt practiced. There's not much to tell, I said, smiling. We met at a gala, talked for hours, and he somehow convinced me to give him my number. Somehow. Richard's eyebrows rose. My son doesn't strike me as the type who needs convincing. Your son, I said, glancing at Dominic, is more charming than he lets on. Dominic's fingers tightened slightly on my knee. A warning? Or something else? She's being generous, he said. I had to ask 3 times before she agreed to dinner. Smart girl. Make him work for it. Richard leaned back, studying us. You're different from the others. Others? I kept my voice light, curious. The women Dominic usually dates. Models, socialites. Beautiful but. He waved a hand. Interchangeable. You have substance. Thank you. I think. Richard laughed, a dry, rattling sound. It's a compliment. Tell me about your family, Lily. I prepared for this. My parents are in California. My dad's a professor, my mum's a nurse. I have a younger brother who's in university. And they approve of Dominic? They haven't met him yet, I said, which was true enough. But they trust my judgment. Do they? Richard's gaze sharpened. And what's your judgment of my son? The question hung in the air. Dominic had gone very still beside me. I looked at him, really looked at him. The strong jaw, the guarded eyes, the tension in his shoulders. A man carrying secrets he wouldn't share. I think, I said slowly, he's more complicated than he wants people to believe. And I think he cares more deeply than he shows. Something shifted in Dominic's expression. Well, Richard said softly. Perhaps you do know him after all. Dinner was served in the formal dining room, 3 courses, each more elaborate than the last. Richard asked questions, and I answered them, weaving truth and fiction together until I almost believed the story myself. Dominic played his part perfectly. His hand on my back, his fingers brushing mine when he passed me the wine. Small touches that looked like affection but felt like a performance. Except sometimes his eyes would meet mine, and I'd have to look away first. Something that made my pulse quicken. I'm tired, Richard announced as dessert was cleared. But Lily, it's been a pleasure. I hope we'll see much more of you. I'd like that, I said, and meant it. Dominic walked his father to the lift, and I heard them speaking in low voices. When he returned, his expression was unreadable. You did well, he said. So did you. He likes you. That's good. Is it? I stood, suddenly exhausted. Or is it just making this more complicated? Dominic stepped closer, and I caught the scent of his cologne, something dark and expensive. It's necessary. That's all that matters. Right. Necessary. I moved toward the door, then stopped. Dominic? Yes. Why does your father think you need someone like me? What happened with the others he mentioned? His jaw tightened. That's not part of our arrangement. Maybe it should be. If I'm going to convince him we're real, I need to know what I'm up against. For a long moment, he just looked at me. Then, the last woman I brought home tried to sell a story to the tabloids. Before that, one stole from him. He's dying, Lily. I won't let anyone hurt him again. His voice wasn't as controlled as before. I won't hurt him, I said quietly. I know. That's why I hired you. He left before I could respond, and I stood alone in the vast dining room, long after he'd gone. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Richard's sharp eyes, Dominic's careful touches, the locked basement door with its fingerprint scanner. At 2 a.m., I gave up and went to the kitchen for water. That's when I heard it. A sound from below. Mechanical, rhythmic. Coming from the basement. I stood at the top of the stairs, my heart pounding, listening. Then the sound stopped. And I heard footsteps. I ran back to the guest house, my pulse racing, and locked the door behind me. Whatever Dominic Hartley was hiding in that basement, it wasn't just a workspace. That scared me, but it was already too late to walk away. I woke to knocking. Sunlight streamed through the guest house windows. My phone read 9:47 a.m. Lily? Dominic's voice. We need to talk. I pulled on yesterday's jeans and opened the door. He stood there in a gray t-shirt and joggers, hair damp from a shower, holding 2 coffee cups. Peace offering, he said, extending one. For what? For whatever you heard last night that made you sprint across the lawn like the place was on fire. My cheeks burned. I don't know what the motion sensors picked you up in the kitchen at 2 a.m. He lifted a brow. Then 3 minutes later, running flat out toward the guest house. I took the coffee. I heard something. From the basement. And you're being weirdly calm about it. Should I panic? He asked mildly. Did you break in? No, then what's the issue? The issue is you have a locked basement making mechanical noises in the middle of the night, and I'm supposed to pretend to be your girlfriend without knowing if you're secretly a serial killer. He laughed. Actually laughed. A serial killer. It's not funny. It's a little funny. He took a sip of his coffee. For the record, I'm not a serial killer. That's exactly what a serial killer would say. Fair. He straightened. Get dressed. Properly dressed. Richard wants to see us for lunch. Both of us. He liked you. Apparently you're refreshingly normal. His mouth twitched. We also need to practice. Practice what? Being convincing. His gaze was steady. You flinched yesterday when I touched you. I did not. You absolutely did. He stepped closer. If we're doing this, it has to look natural. My pulse picked up. And how exactly do you propose we fix that? By practicing. Now. A pause. Unless you want Richard to realize we're lying. I hated that he was right. Fine, I said. Give me 20 minutes. 15. He was in the kitchen when I came back. Better, he said. The dress works. I'd chosen a simple blue sundress. Thanks. Come here. I did. Couples touch casually, he said. Without thinking. He reached out slowly, deliberately, and rested his hand on my waist. Like this. My breath caught. You're holding your breath, he said. I'm not. You are. His thumb moved in a small circle. Relax. That's easy for you to say. Is it? Something sharpened in his expression. This isn't easy for me either. His other hand settled at my back, warm and steady. We need to look like this is familiar, he said. Like we've done it before. We haven't. Then we learn. He drew me closer, not pressed against him, but close enough that I could feel his heat. Better? He asked. I don't know yet. Honest. His voice lowered. Your turn. My turn. Touch me. Somewhere a girlfriend would. I hesitated, then placed my hand on his chest. His heart was steady beneath my palm. Good, he murmured. Anywhere else? I slid my hand to his shoulder. His muscle tensed. You're not relaxed either, I said. No, he admitted. I'm not. Why? Because you're close, he said quietly. And this has stopped feeling professional. Oh. Yes. He didn't move away. We should stop. Probably. Neither of us did. Lily. Yes. If I kissed you right now, he said, would you slap me? My breath stalled. I don't know. That's not a no. It's not a yes. Fair. His thumb traced my spine once. I want to. For what it's worth. That's honest. I try to be. A beat. We should go. Richard's waiting. Right. Yes. He stepped back. The space he left felt louder than the room had been. That was good practice, he said, voice neutral again. Very convincing. Extremely. We stood there a moment longer. Dominic? Yes. What's in the basement? His expression closed. Nothing that concerns you. He picked up his keys. Get your bag. We're late. He left first. I stood alone in the kitchen, my coffee forgotten, the question still unanswered. And whatever I'd heard last night hadn't gone away. Richard's house was in Hampstead. Old money, the kind that whispered rather than shouted. Portraits in the hallway. Generations staring down from the walls. Relax, Dom said as we pulled up to the gate. I am relaxed. Your hands are fists. I looked down and unclenched them. Better? Marginally. He reached over and took my hand. We're supposed to be in love, remember? Right. Love. Easy. His thumb traced a slow circle against my palm. Just follow my lead. That's what worries me. He smiled, quick, confident. You'll be fine. He already likes you. He met me for 30 seconds. He met my eyes. Trust me. Before I could answer, the gate swung open. Richard answered the door himself. No staff. No ceremony. Just a man in his 70s wearing a cardigan and a welcoming smile. Dominic. He pulled Dom into a hug that lingered. And Lily. Come in. The house smelled like roast and old books. Comfortable. Lived in. I hope you're hungry, Richard said, leading us to the dining room. Mrs. Bryan has been cooking all morning. You didn't have to go to all that trouble, I said. Nonsense. It's not every day my son brings someone home. He glanced at Dom. In fact, it's been 3 years? 4, Dom said. 4 years. Richard turned to me. So you two met at a gallery, how did that happen exactly? Dom's hand found mine under the table. Do you want to tell it? I said, smiling to Dom. No, you go ahead, he said smoothly. I was there with a friend. Dom was standing alone scowling. I was not. You absolutely were. I squeezed his hand. Very unapproachable. Richard laughed. That sounds like him. She came over anyway, Dom said. Told me I looked like I needed better company than my thoughts. Bold, Richard said. Stupid, I replied lightly. He could have been anyone. But I wasn't, Dom said, his gaze steady. I was exactly where I needed to be. The moment stretched, just long enough to notice. And how long has this been going on? Richard asked. 3 months, Dom said. 2.5, I corrected without thinking, then stopped. Richard raised a brow. Already disagreeing? We met 3 months ago, Dom said easily, his hand tightening on mine. But Lily made me work for it. Smart girl, Richard said. The conversation moved on, but my pulse didn't slow. Mrs. Bryan served lunch. Richard asked questions, where I grew up, what I did, what my family did. I answered carefully, keeping close to the truth. Dom's hand never left mine. You're good for him, Richard said suddenly. Dad, No, Richard waved him off. You've been different lately. Lighter. I'm fine. You're better than fine. Richard looked at me. The last woman Dominic brought home cared more about the lifestyle than the man. Dom stiffened. She sold a story to the tabloids after things ended, Richard went on. Didn't matter that most of it wasn't true. Damage was done. The locked basement door surfaced in my mind. The surveillance. The control. I'm not her, I said. I know, Richard replied. I can tell. Could he? Or was he seeing what he wanted to see? Lily doesn't want anything from me, Dom said quietly. Except £50,000, I thought. But I leaned into him anyway. Just you, I said. That's all. His arm came around my shoulders. His lips brushed my temple, casual, familiar. Convincing. See? Richard said, satisfied. That's not something you fake. I didn't answer. Because sitting there, with Dom's arm firm around me and his father watching us with quiet relief, it was getting harder to remember where the performance ended. The drive back was quiet. Too quiet. Dom's hands gripped the steering wheel, jaw set. London blurred past the windows. You said 2.5 months, he said. What? At lunch. You said we'd been together 2.5 months. It's 3. My stomach dropped. I'm sorry. I didn't think, he noticed. We recovered well. He noticed, Dom said flatly. He's dying, Lily. Not stupid. I'll be more careful. He didn't respond. But his hands were white on the wheel. He didn't speak again until we reached the house. He really likes you, he said, cutting the engine. I like him too. That's the problem. He finally looked at me. This was meant to be simple. A transaction. You're making it complicated. I'm doing exactly what you hired me to do. I know. He got out of the car. Inside, the air felt tight. I need to work, he said, heading for the stairs. In the basement? He stopped. Turned slowly. No, then where? My office. His gaze sharpened. Why are you asking about the basement? I'm just curious. Curiosity is a liability. Then why keep secrets? Stay out of the basement, Lily. Or what? Or you're fired. He went upstairs. A door closed. Locked. Not the arrangement ends. Fired. I stood in the foyer, staring at the basement door. The fingerprint scanner glowed softly in the dim hallway, a small red light pulsing steadily. Impenetrable. Impossible. I woke to the sound again. 2:47 a.m., according to my phone. The same mechanical whirring I'd heard before, muffled, uneven. Coming from below. It wasn't constant. A motor starting. Stopping. Then starting again. I lay still, listening. Then I got up. And walked to the main house. The hallway was dark and silent, except for the sound drifting up from the basement. I moved barefoot down the stairs, my phone lighting the way. My pulse thudded loud enough that I was sure it would give me away. The basement door waited at the bottom. The fingerprint scanner glowed red in the darkness. Passive. Locked. I leaned closer, pressing my ear to the door. The noise was clearer here. A low mechanical hum. A faint clicking layered beneath it, precise, rhythmic. Like parts moving in sequence. I stepped back and ran my hand along the doorframe. Solid. Seamless. I crouched and checked the gap at the bottom. Nothing. Just darkness. I straightened, scanning the hallway. Walls. Ceiling. Corners. No vents. No windows. No alternate access. Only the door. And the sound behind it. Looking for something. I spun around. Dom stood at the top of the stairs, face unreadable. "You are breaking into my basement," he said. "I didn't, you tried." He came down slowly. "After I told you not to. I needed to know if I'm safe here." That stopped him. "You think I'd hurt you?" "I don't know what to think." "You won't tell me anything." "What I won't do," he snapped, "is let another person destroy my father." "Vanessa," I said. His jaw clenched. I trusted her. Showed her things I'd never shown anyone. My work. My projects. The things that actually matter to me. His jaw tightened. 3 weeks later, it was all over the tabloids. She sold the story. She sold everything. Photos. Private conversations. Details about my father's illness that I'd shared in confidence. He looked at me then, and the pain in his eyes was raw. Richard had reporters camped outside his house. They were shouting questions about his cancer, about whether he was dying. Oh my God. He had a heart episode that week. Stress-induced. Ended up in hospital for weeks. Dom's hands clenched into fists. Because I trusted the wrong person. Because I let someone in. Understanding landed hard. "But what's in the basement?" I said quietly. "The only thing I've never trusted anyone with." Silence. "I'm not going to sell you out," I said. "I know." His voice broke. "That's what scares me." Suddenly the air turned thick. He was standing so close I could feel his heat. "You're making this impossible." He breathed. "What's impossible?" The look in his eyes made my breath catch. "Keeping my distance," he said quietly. "Remembering this isn't real." The air left my lungs. "Dom, go to bed, Lily. We need to talk about this." "No. We don't." He moved past me, heading for the basement door. He pressed his fingers on the pad. The lock clicked. "We need to remember what this is. A business arrangement. Nothing more." He opened the door and disappeared down the stairs. The lock engaged behind him with a final, decisive click. I didn't sleep. At dawn, he knocked on my door. "We need to talk," he said. "Because pretending this is just business has stopped working." "You're angry." "No, Lily, I'm terrified." He exhaled. "Terrified of what?" I asked. "Of this." He said, pulling me towards him. He kissed me. Hard. Uncontrolled. Like restraint snapping. I kissed him back as fiercely. "This is a terrible idea," he murmured against my lips. "Probably. We should stop." Neither of us did. When we finally pulled apart, breathless, he rested his forehead against mine. "I'll show you the basement," he said. "After breakfast." I searched his face. "You're serious?" "Yes." A faint smile. "But don't expect a horror story." "What should I expect?" "Something I care about more than I should." He stepped back. "And Lily?" "Yeah. This hasn't been fake since I met you." Then he left. An hour later, we stood in front of the basement door. Dom's hand hovered over the keypad. Last chance to back out. Not a chance. He studied me for a second, then nodded and pressed his fingers on the pad. The lock disengaged with a soft click. The door swung open. Warm light spilled out. Not the harsh fluorescence I'd expected. Not the cold clinical brightness of a lab or the dim shadows of something sinister. Just, warm light. "Come on," Dom said. His voice was lower now. "Careful." The stairs descended into the same steady hum I'd heard before, rhythmic, mechanical, precise. At the bottom, I stopped. The basement was vast. Clean. Temperature controlled. Orderly in a way that felt intentional. And alive. Tracks ran across long tables and platforms. Signals blinked red and green. Engines moved smoothly through tunnels, over bridges, past stations no bigger than my hand. An entire landscape in motion. "Oh," I said. Dom didn't speak. Villages rose from carefully sculpted terrain. Trees stood in neat rows. Rivers flowed beneath miniature arches, the water actually moving. "Model trains," I breathed. "Model trains," Dom said. Not defensive. Not apologetic. Just factual. I walked closer, taking it in properly now. "This is incredible," I said. "It's a whole system." His mouth tightened. "That's one way to describe it." "It must have taken a long time to make this," I marveled. 15 years. I turned back to him. "You've been building this since you were 20. "Yes." The weight of that settled between us. 15 years of quiet work. Of control. Of something private enough to be ruined by the wrong set of eyes. I understood then, not everything, but enough. Why the locks were tighter here. Why the cameras never blinked. Why he'd shielded the keypad with his body. Not because he was hiding something dangerous. Because he was protecting something unfinished. Something that didn't survive headlines. Something that mattered. "Can you show me?" I asked. "How it all works?" His face transformed. "Really? Really? 3 months later, you're doing it wrong." I looked up from the miniature. Victorian lamppost in my hand. "Excuse me." Dom leaned over my shoulder, his breath warm against my neck. "The angle. It needs to tilt slightly left. More accurate. It's a toy train set. It's a historically accurate model railway." He reached around me, adjusting the lamppost with careful precision. "There's a difference. You're impossible. You love it." I did. It had been 3 months since the contract ended. 3 months since I was meant to take the money and leave. Richard had known before either of us admitted it. "So," he'd said one afternoon, settling into his chair. "When were you planning to tell me?" "Tell you what?" Dom had asked, frozen. "That you're in love," Richard replied mildly. "You weren't acting very well." My face had burned. "Richard, I'm delighted," he'd said. "You've made my son happy. That matters more than anything else." Dom hadn't argued. Neither had I, thinking about him again. Dom asked now. "You always know. You get quiet." He turned me to face him. "He's doing better. The treatment's working." "I know." I smiled. "I'm glad." Dom hesitated. "About that," he said. My heart kicked up. "I know we said we'd slow down," he continued. "But I don't want to." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "I love you," he said simply. "And I don't want to ever go back to life without you. Marry me." The ring was understated. Perfect. Very Dom. More importantly, very me. "In the basement," I said. "In the one place I never let anyone see," he replied. "Until you." I didn't overthink it. "Yes," I said. "Obviously." Relief crossed his face as he slid the ring onto my finger. "You're sure?" "I've been sure longer than I'll admit." "Richard's going to be unbearable," I said. "He'll enjoy every second." Dom pulled me close, resting his forehead against mine. "Worth it," he murmured. "Definitely." The trains continued their steady loops around us, quiet and constant. "So," he said, after a moment. "Tell him now. Or let him wait." "Let him wait." He smiled. "I knew you'd say that." We left the basement together, the door closing softly behind us. Some things were still running exactly as they always had. Others had finally changed. The end.